Hey guys. Yep, we know. It's been a while, and we got a couple updates for the podcast, because obviously that's what you guys are here for. It's not to listen to us blabber for another fucking hour.
Of course not.
Just to address the elephant in the room, the podcast video is coming along, and we have plenty of details and whatnot on our Patreon account. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And just to keep it short and sweet here, though, we're hoping for an end of the month release, and we're going to hold ourselves to that, and that means that you guys get to hold us to that. And yeah, so it's been a kind of a long, arduous fucking project, but condensing an hour and a half of fucking conversation down to a coherent 15 minutes is difficult as all fuck. And again, we have plenty of details on that in our Patreon account. Money. But anyways, that's also the reason why you guys haven't heard even the after hours recently, is because we're really trying to bust out this video podcast for you guys. That way you guys don't look at us and scream hacks and how dare you ask for a tip when you're not giving us what we promised. Mm-hmm. It's almost like the British tipping system. You know, you give us a tip anyway and we still have to provide shit service. The tipping's mandatory in some restaurants. Anyways, so that's the reason why we haven't done after hours in a while, is because we're really trying to buckle down and get the podcast out. That being said, we decided to do something, fucking gaming news. I mean, Gamergate. We're sick and tired of that shit, so we're gonna try moving on to actual game news. So, something that I've been noticing when I've been cruising around Steam and some other websites is that there's a fucking ton of re-releases out lately. I mean, obviously we kind of touched up on this topic a while back, but ever since the consoles made a jump from the PlayStation 3 to 4 and from the Xbox 360 to 1 degree away, we 1% in graphics improvements from what I hear too.
Yeah.
Ooh,
essentially, when things went from bad to worse.
So we've been noticing there's been tons and tons of re-releases. All these companies are really coming out of the fucking woodwork, and they're re-releasing their games. I mean, we saw the Deus Ex Director's Cut with the last gen, from the PS3 to the Wii U to the PC. And now we're seeing the stuff like, you know, Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition, where they've allegedly increased the graphic prowess of their original game for new consoles.
And meanwhile, the AI of that game is as obtuse as always.
Yes, having other cars crash into your parked car. You'd be sitting there, your car's not moving, all of a sudden people are just running into you left and right. It's like, Jesus.
Uh-huh.
It's that old Asian stereotype. Oh, I'm going to hell for that one.
Oh boy.
Oh god. Inadvertent racism. Not on my half, on the half of the developers. Jesus.
Well, maybe. I guess they just tried to make the game more realistic then.
Oh god.
No, not both of us are going to hell.
Wow. Cancel CCS hashtag. Oh god. You guys should hear when Max goes on a riff on rednecks. Whoo. Am I offended? But not really. Anyway. God fucking damn it. I lost all track of fucking where I was at. Anyways. So we're seeing all these fucking games getting re-releases, and everybody's saying, you know, they've been revamped and all the DLCs included. And it's basically all this Game of the Year stuff, except that they've increased the graphics, obviously, because ever since the jump from the PS2 to the PS3, where all they do is just upscale the graphics.
Right.
If a game's already running in high definition, where the fuck do you go?
Well, if you're SquareEnix, then you decide to go down because...
You go the exact fucking opposite direction.
Yes, precisely, because while you could argue that some of these ports, like the Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut, or the aforementioned Sleeping Dogs, the Definitive Edition,
yes,
like those games could have been somewhat of an improvement over the original game. Mm-hmm. In the case of Square Enix, apparently they had decided to port the also venerated 13th installment of the Final Fantasy series,
the best one in the series,
to the PC, and as you've told me, the port is basically gimped.
Yes, it's gimped as all fuck, unless you can get the hack patches. Mm-hmm. Because I've been researching Final Fantasy XIII. Not that I plan on buying it again.
Oh no, you were just looking at the fan art.
Yeah, because, you know, I figure if they're gonna, you know, shove Lightning's dick down my throat, then, you know, I might as well go ahead and enjoy the fan art.
To quote Red Letter Media in that one episode when it was the Wolf of Wall Street review, when Jay praises the film for the most realistic depiction of the gay orgy, and there's just a bit of text underneath him that says "confirmed for gay."
Anyways, yeah, I thought maybe you're taking me seriously on that whole entire... because, again, Squaresoft seems to believe that we can't get enough fucking lightning for some reason. Mm-hmm. I don't get it. I honestly don't get what the appeal is, if there even is any.
Don't look at me.
Let me adjust my microphone real quick, because for some fucking reason, Audacity keeps trying to recalibrate the audio on my microphone. And I'm, like, talking, like, ultra soft. Even though I've got my mouth practically on the fucking microphone. It's some type of like homoerotic like subliminal message or something. Talking about Lightning's dick and my mouth keeps getting closer to the mic.
That's the new attachment they released. Now you can actually physically orally pleasure Lightning, and then the maybe that's gonna be the Flash parody that Zone makes of the game.
Oh God.
You plug a flashlight into your PC and
auto stroke.
Oh boy, there's big bucks to be making these in with these ideas, folks. So take notes.
Someone's sitting there with a fucking clipboard and a pen.
Yes. This is brilliant. Let me jot this down. Yes.
The Mark Zuckerberg of pornography.
Well, as long as you give us 30% royalties, then sure, whatever.
Just give us the end product.
Or that, yes.
Oh God. Okay. Anyways, so Final Fantasy XIII is apparently gimped from all reports that I've read, especially on Steam, where I spend most of my gaming life. Because everyone says that the graphics in Final Fantasy XIII for the PC are locked down at like I think it's 720p, which is still technically high def though, but you can't get like full 1080p, and the frame rate's locked and a bunch of other stuff that really mishandles the power of a PC, and basically it's a shit port. They've included like I think it's the Xbox 360's ultra compressed videos rather than like the more high def, allegedly the more high def PlayStation 3 versions of the videos. So there is no high-def version of Final Fantasy XIII for all of you who can't get enough lightning. It's at this point it's like high-definition porn, which, believe me, pornography is one of those things that has never fucking benefited from high definition. I can count the hair on Ron Jeremy's back. Fuck that noise, man.
Well, I guess it depends on who you're looking at. But, well, first of all, here's my question to you. Why the port of Final Fantasy XIII to PC all of a sudden?
I don't know. I guess SquareEnix is just trying to make a quick buck. Mm-hmm. They say if we do a lazy port, then people on Steam will apparently buy our shit. At least you expect the graphics upgrade, right?
Yes, but I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the fact that Final Fantasy XIII is all of a sudden on PC.
I thought you were gonna say I need to wrap my mind around Lightning's dick. We're still stuck on that, folks.
No, that's what I gotta do with my mouth, apparently. But
Nom.
Nevertheless, to move away from all of these shenanigans for a second, because here's the thing, Final Fantasy XIII, despite being a shit game, it's still a JRPG. And JRPGs have been historically associated with consoles.
Yes.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is because for most of my life I've been primarily, well, I wouldn't even classify myself as a gamer because I play video games every once in a blue moon. If there's like really something great out there that I can get behind, then yeah, sure, I'll try and play it, but I'll try to play it on my PC. And as a PC gamer, there historically have been some games that for whatever reason would end up being console exclusives. Games like first-person shooters that have historically belonged on PCs. And trust me, I don't want to start a massive debate over, which gaming is better, like PC versus consoles and all that nonsense.
The master race versus the console race.
Yeah,
right?
The console plebs. But the point I'm trying to make here is that there are certain games that can benefit from being eventually ported to PC that have been for some reason stuck on consoles, like third-person shooters or strategies, maybe something like that. But Final Fantasy, it all around, it just seems like a massive cash grab to me. Like, there's no reason for that game to be ported anywhere, let alone PC.
Yes. Well, the fact that it's ported this late in the game, The fact that it's definitely not one of the best Final Fantasy games, which is debatable, honestly. Some people do enjoy it, though, but I found it, coming from Final Fantasy VI and that era, I found it extremely linear and a rail shooter, basically. And, again, the first 3 hours is all fucking cutscenes, at least. That's as far as I got, then I quit the fucker. But to port Final Fantasy XIII, of all things, over to the PC, unless they're gearing up for a big PC, Final Fantasy XIII-2, and eventually XIII-3. I'm guessing they're setting the framework up for that, just to kind of test the waters, though. But if they're porting games this downright shitty, I'm not saying the game's shitty. I'm saying that the port itself is just absolute shit. It doesn't take advantage of what the PC has to offer.
Yeah.
I don't get the point. Whereas, like, you look at something in contrast, you look at something like the Metro 2033 redo.
Yes.
Which is fucking gorgeous. I mean, here's a game that was technically last gen, if you want to use those terms. Fairly new game, and they redid it top to bottom. I mean, they use a different game engine. The graphics are fucking majorly overhauled. I think they did some AI tweaks. They added new areas to the game.
Yes.
I mean, it's something that, and it's only $25. I mean, granted, you can say that I believe that Final Fantasy XIII is $15 on Steam. Let me
Even
check
that's
on that real
too
quick.
much. I mean, Christ.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, if you want to burn money, you might as well.
Yes, $16 on Steam.
Well, if you feel like a masochist, you might as well add $5 extra and get yourself gone home while you're at it.
We gotta stay away from that kind of stuff because we've voiced our piece. I know. It's gonna seep in there every once in a while, though. But
yeah,
we'll try to refrain ourselves from having an opinion.
Yes, at this point we're kind of like that older relative of yours who every once in a while slips racial epithets out of nowhere.
Well, of course, my family's a walking racial epithet too. So, anyways.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You could argue that Metro 2033, which I have not played, but I've heard plenty of good stuff about. Like, apparently it's one of the better first-person shooters / first-person exploration games, kind of like the Metroid Prime series of the last generation. But here's the thing: the reason I have absolutely no objections to that port, whereas I might object to something like the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD release, is because there was that one thing you mentioned, that they actually added extra content to the HD version of Metro 2033.
Yes, because some areas had, quote, invisible walls where, a guard stands in front of a door and you can't get in there. They've actually opened up a lot of areas. Not a lot, but they've opened up several areas. Right,
which is a comparison I made earlier, is that what you get with this new version is basically kind of like a director's cut of a film. Like, here's 10 minutes of never-before-seen footage that didn't make it to the theatrical cut.
Right.
So, essentially, you get more content. Meanwhile, in Nintendo's case, and I know that people will once again accuse us of Nintendo bashing, but it's like, come on, people. It's public knowledge at this point that there were several extra dungeons that they were going to include into the original game, but they decided to nix because they were afraid that people were never going to finish it. But now, we do know that people love the game. People can't get enough of the game. It's, in some people's opinions, one of the most venerated Legend of Zelda games out there.
Right.
And instead of adding extra dungeons or something that would justify the re-release and potentially make it better, because there's also the issue with graphics. Like, some people prefer the original associated look over the new look that has a lot of bloom and like lens flares, etc.
Right, the hyper-realistic look.
Yeah. So, in the case of the re-release, you could have included those extra dungeons, extra maybe items, maybe new costumes that give you extra powers, or just some extra content that justifies the purchase. Versus, like I can get behind something like the the HD 3D version of Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, because in that case they revamped the graphics. I think they fixed the water temple. I'm not a huge Zelda fan, so please don't cringe too much as I mispronounce.
Yeah, the water temple kind of sucked.
Yeah. So they fixed that. So okay, that's actually an improvement. They actually fixed something that was lacking in the original game. But in the case of Wind Waker, the only new feature is the fact that you can send bottle messages to people.
Jesus.
In which case, I think I already made that joke like 2 years ago during our E3 discussion. But yeah, imagine how many dick pics people are gonna send to one another just to troll.
Shit. Lightning. Lightning fan art.
Oh boy.
Brought to you by SquareEnix. At this point, all these fucking Final Fantasy XIII video games are fucking oral rape.
Yeah. Well, at least apparently they're embracing the trans movement then.
Mm-hmm. Whatever floats people's boats. Anyways, but again, you brought up some examples previously when we kind of started discussing this topic. Deus Ex Human Revolution, the director's cut, where they finally apparently fixed the fucking boss battles. So yeah. I'll let you rant here.
Well, the thing about it, and this is once again, this is public knowledge at this point, but the Deus Ex Human Revolution, the game has flaws besides the boss battles, but in my opinion, it's a really great game. I love the atmosphere, I love the setting, I love the philosophical ideas that are presented. And one of the things I like about the game is that it offers you the chance to play the game any way you want. If you want to play it as a dumb FPS, you can basically max the necessary abilities and you will basically be Robocop and you'll be able to shoot your way through legions of enemies. Or, if like me, you want to play as a more sneaky / hacky type, which I was doing because, as I was playing the game, I was pretending that I was Major Mordecai Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell the entire time.
Right.
See people, a white straight male, imagining that he's a female.
You're not a cis anymore, are you? In that case.
Yes, I'm one of the enlightened #progressives. But the point is, I was playing the entire game using stealth, avoiding enemies, knocking them out, not even killing anyone. So, in my the only items I had in my arsenal were the stun gun, the taser for close range, and the tranquilizer, the gun that shoots tranquilizer darts for long range stuff, and also a shit ton of candy bars because every time you knock someone out, you gotta refuel your strength with candy bars. Yeah, we're talking about space age cybernetic technology, and we gotta refuel our energy with freaking Snickers bars.
Hungry? Why wait?
Right, so
something like that, I wouldn't even mind product placement, to be honest. It'd just be that much funner.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, but the problem is that once I got to the boss battles, I was appalled because the abilities that I maxed were all the abilities that would enhance my stealth, like silent footsteps, invisibility, longer durability. And then I'm placed in a room where there's nowhere to hide, and there's this burly-looking motherfucker with a fucking Gatling gun. And all I have is a fucking dart gun that doesn't do jack shit.
I just picture this big old, Rambo-looking motherfucker.
Not even that. Think bigger. Think the fucking Juggernaut from X-Men.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So this big Juggernaut-looking motherfucker with a goddamn Gatling gun or a minigun or whatever the hell you want to call it. And there's Max, like Solid Snake, hiding inside a fucking cardboard box, hoping he doesn't see him.
That's what it basically was. And the only way, as I've told you, I was able to defeat the bosses is by basically cheating. Because the problem with the boss battles is that they were outsourced to a different developer.
Brilliant.
Who apparently thought that the entire game was just a blatant, a really dumbed down, Call of Duty corridor first-person shooter. So they didn't even think of providing different ways of defeating the boss, because I thought that, hey, look, I was able to knock down all of the enemies by just running up to them and doing the quick punch them down, knock them down thing. Mm-hmm. But every time you try to do it on the boss, even if you sneak on him from behind, the boss counters your attack, and then he fucking riddles you with bullets. So every single time, because these boss battles were so here's the problem, because they were outsourced, they were buggy as all hell, but that was also almost a blessing, because that's the only way I was able to defeat the bosses, because with the first boss, it's like...
Make him get stuck in a wall so you can sit there and punch him for half an hour.
Pretty much. Wait until he needs to reload his gun, and then just unleash everything I had. And
which at this point is just your sneaky steps.
Yeah, well,
I can walk circles around him very, very quietly.
Well, to be perfectly honest, there were rooms and they had like shotguns and whatnot. But I didn't pour any points into accuracy and whatnot. So I was firing like a drunk blind. I don't know who. It was a fucking slaughter. What those boss battles were. So in that case. Just the fact that they fixed the boss battles is, to me, a selling point for the director's cut of Deus Ex Human Revolution,
right,
because it's an improvement over the game.
Yeah, a vast improvement, something that actually fixes a major game flaw, which, according to the Steam community, a lot of people were demanding that this would be a free update. Mm-hmm. That, you know, if you bought Deus Ex, the first version, you should be able to get these patches or these tweaks and fixes in the form of a patch.
Right, because otherwise the game was rushed into development and we received a buggy product.
Right, and it was technically, depending on the way you play it, unplayable.
But then again, thinking back to it, the game was published by SquareEnix, who several years later made the Final Fantasy XIII port, so I'm not surprised at all that they charged extra money for the director's cut. See, people, all of it is connected.
Yep, and it all says SquareEnix.
Mm-hmm.
Zip. Boing.
Bum, bum, bum.
Sorry, that was my lightning parody. I'm not gonna get over that.
Zip, point, shoot, money shot.
Jesus Christ. I'm just waiting to see the fan art now.
Alright, Hulk. Take a deep breath, stop thinking about she-males, and just concentrate on the ports.
I am. We also compared all this stuff to, say, like the Blade Runner series of videos, the different variations that movie has gone through, and how it kind of correlates into this entire re-releasing the game under different tweaks, for instance. And how something in lines of, say, Metro 2033 redo and the Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut, where they actually do a lot of work to either correct gameplay or else they almost completely revamp an entire game.
Right.
How that is worth the money versus, as we said in the past, for example, our past HD updates video with Mel, the Fubu, is unlike examples of like Silent Hill 2.
Yes.
Where they try to re-record the voices and the characters, and then they just upscale everything in a buggy port. These versions, Deus Ex and Metro, are examples of something that we can get behind.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Because the thing about Deus Ex is, well, obviously there's the whole boss battle issue that they did amend, but there's also the thing about that edition is that if you buy the Director's Cut edition for $60, $50, for $40, however much the retail price is, on the same disc you also get the 2 extra side missions, some extra. Basically, you get all the DLC stuff, including an entire new campaign called The Missing Link.
Right.
So, in a certain sense, if you decided not to buy into the hype and procure the game on day one, and instead you decide to wait a little bit, then right now you have the chance to procure an ultimate cut, so to speak, of the game with all of the DLC.
But that's the same thing with a lot of these Game of the Year editions. Whereas what we're talking about is something that actually goes above and beyond a simple re-release.
Well, yeah, the thing about these editions is that it's always better to wait until the last one, or at least kind of do your research and gauge which versions contain which content, because with Blade Runner, to keep this succinct, the problem with that film is that until recently, until like 2005, 2007, I believe, there wasn't a real director's cut of that film, because the theatrical version was really gimped because of studio interference. They thought that the concept was a bit too highbrow,
challenging.
Yeah, so they decided to insert some ending narration, I believe, by Deckard.
Well, not just ending narration; they narrated the entire fucking movie using Harrison Ford.
Really?
I mean, it sounded like a really, really well. Some people like the theatrical cut. I'm more of the ultimate cut kind of guy, because once you see the ultimate cut, in my personal opinion, the minute you see that, you can't go back to the theater cut. The entire film is narrated by Harrison Ford in the theatrical cut because they thought that not many people would know what was going on the screen unless it was spoon-fed to them, unless they fed you Harrison Ford's dick. Another parallel. Anyways, so they had this entire thing narrated, and again, it ruins the infamous Tears and Rain scene because I mean it's so profound, so powerful, and all of a sudden Harrison Ford just starts regurgitating exactly what he said in plain English. I mean, not even like a noir sense. It was just, it's really hard to take.
Right, and then several years later, the studio, when releasing the film on VHS, they decided to make some extra bucks by adding a couple of extra minutes of footage. And they actually had the audacity to slap the director's cut stamp on it, even though Ridley's cut had absolutely nothing to do with that version of the film.
Right, and didn't the director's cut also take out the narration?
I believe it did, but it replaced it with something equally asinine, with all those very...
Subtitles!
Yeah, with all those different versions of Blade Runner up until the Ultimate Cut, it was always a catch-22. They took out this, but they replaced it with something equally horrendous that ruins the film. Yeah, and then there was another version of the film, and basically it wasn't until, like I said, the beginning of the 21st century, the 2000s, when Ridley Scott finally released the Ultimate Cut of Blade Runner.
Our savior has returned.
Well, even then it's a catch-22 because now Ridley Scott is playing around with the idea of a Blade Runner 2.
No, please don't.
Uh-huh.
Although, if he's directing it and it's going to be set in the same universe with different characters, I might be alright with that, though.
I think that's the case, so that might be the only saving grace in this case. But if you're going to have a 60 or 70-year-old Harrison Ford in a trench coat...
Oh no, even better, the Deckard character is going to be played by fucking Channing Tatum.
Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf! Exactly! Oh my god, vomit-inducing.
Oh boy, it's going to be Crystal Skull all over again.
God, if he hasn't raped Indiana Jones once, or Harrison Ford once. Deckard comes out and throws his hat to him.
Well, he's systematically destroying all of his best roles. First Indiana Jones, then Han Solo, and now Deckard. It makes sense.
Oh, God.
I guess that's his vendetta against the viewers, the system. I don't know.
He's so based, he's like, fuck all my past roles.
Well, look, wouldn't he just do the Bill Murray thing and say no to Ghostbusters 3 in that case, versus like, oh, what's the Star Wars 7? Yeah, sure, whatever. Let me grab my walker.
Shit. Actually, Bill Murray did go on the Ghostbusters video game, which is technically the third Ghostbusters movie. So, especially it's as close as we're ever going to get now that Harold Rami's passed on. But, anyways, getting back to our original discussion, this is why it's taken so fucking long to edit the fucking podcast, folks. All these tangents and shit. Anyways, so again, the end product with all these Blade Runner releases is arguably a gradually better and better product. Which, you get to the end, you get to the Ultimate Edition, and it's like, okay, I'll buy this, and it also includes the previous versions too.
Right. It's kind of the same way. It's kind of the same thing that, to his credit, Steven Spielberg did when he remastered E.T.
Did E.T.? Oh, I'll shoot you with my walkie-talkie.
Yeah, but at least he had the decency to include the original version of the film on the same disc or on the second disc or something.
That's good.
Which is much better than his colleague and peer, George Lucas, because we know what Lucas thinks of the original versions of Star Wars.
Yeah, Red Letter Media has done plenty of videos on that.
Yeah.
But anyways, again, I akin a lot of this, like the Silent Hill 2 to the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. I kind of compare that to like taking a video and then remastering it as far as like better film quality, bringing it to Blu-ray, or in case from VHS to DVD.
Right.
Whereas to me that kind of smacks almost like a cash grab. It always has.
Obviously, yes. I mean, especially with the voice acting, it's pretty obvious that the new people just had no understanding of what the original creators of Silent Hill 2 were going for.
Right.
So, in a certain way, to once again harken back to George Lucas, is with the new voice actors, he basically took like a new actor and digitally put his face on top of the original actor, because like, no, this is the definitive version or whatever.
He makes a new version. He takes the original Star Wars. Well, I guess you can't do it now though. But you take the original Star Wars and replace all the characters with Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, just members of his species. Like, that's the way it was meant to be.
And Ewoks. That'd be like a divide by zero, create a vortex or a black hole moment in time, wouldn't it?
Right.
So there's definitely the upgrades as far as like, you know, visual presentation, and to me that kind of smacks as a cash grab, but it is there to an extent to preserve good video games, because I mean, otherwise some people might not be able to get a chance to play the original Silent Hill 2, because if you get a new copy for the PlayStation 2, it'll cost you an arm and a fucking leg. And you know, there's digital outlets where, you know, some games you can get on like PlayStation stores and whatnot, and we've covered all this before. And then as far as like the game of the year editions, I can kind of understand why they do that, because, you know, maybe you're waiting till the DLC came out and you were on the fence with, you know, Sleeping Dogs, and you're like, you know, I see all this DLC coming out, I'm just gonna wait till the game of the year edition comes out and I'll get all of it at a discounted price. However, where the best stuff comes from is, again, kind of like taking a game and doing exactly what Blade Runner did, and take a game like Metro 2033 and not only improve the system, but they also expand what they either expand it out so it's not interfering, but it's just more content.
Yeah.
Or they take the best example is Legend of Zelda Wind Waker example, where they take the concepts that they were going to add to the game, had every intention of adding to the game, but then, you know, double guessed themselves and took it all out.
Right.
I mean, that would have been a great opportunity to not only introduce the game to a whole new group of people, but also give the people who've played the game another reason to go out and pick it up.
Yeah, a nice little bonus, sure.
Yeah.
You get a second chance to fulfill the creative vision you initially had for this game, and you flush it down the toilet in favor of gimmicks.
Right. Message in bottle. Sorry. But and then even worse, he takes like something like Final Fantasy XIII, where they just fucked it sideways.
Yeah, with Final Fantasy XIII, another shitty port that comes to mind is when, like, you know how initially Resident Evil 4 was meant to be a GameCube exclusive?
Right.
But after, I think, the creative director had a dispute with the heads at Capcom, at which point they decided to milk the shit out of that game and port it to every single platform imaginable, like right down to iOS, I believe. But the thing about the PC port was that it was they didn't even port the GameCube version, which was the best looking version. They ported the PS2 version. And here's the thing. They didn't, and this is what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about, you know, games that could benefit from being on the PC because of the mouse, like Resident Evil 4. It's a third-person shooter, so you could get better accuracy with the mouse. They didn't even include the fucking mouse. You had to seriously, dude, you had to aim the same way you would aim on a console, like a joystick, a gamepad. But with the gamepad, at least you have the triggers. In this case, you had to use the fucking arrows to aim.
Ooh, that sucks. I mean, there's no Xbox controller.
Well, that's the thing. That's the only way you could have played the game, if you bought like a cheap Logitech or however you call those, like third-party software, and you could have like plugged the controller in, and you had to play it like a console. So if you had the gamepad, yeah, sure, that's great. But if you were just to play the game on PC, it's like, oh, it's an official port. Yeah, no. And I think, again, to go back to Final Fantasy, it wasn't until the fans of the game decided to mod the game, and that's when they were finally able to integrate mouse support. Because this is honestly mind-boggling. Like, if you're gonna make a port, at least make it as good
as you can
as the console version. Yes.
Take advantage of what you have to work with.
The new medium.
Because it really does feel like a lazy Xbox 360 to PC port, from what I've heard.
Right.
And from the shitstorm that is happening on Steam, where everyone's fucking signing petitions inside like the community hub areas, and I mean it's fucking shitstorm. I can't. It's flabbergasting though, but it's also great because it's also gamer democracy.
Yeah.
Although again, they've demanded that SquareEnix fix the PC version of Final Fantasy VIII because apparently the music sucked. and they have yet to do anything about that. So, I mean, granted, it is a $16 purchase, which is a hell of a lot less than the $60 that a lot of people have paid for it the first time around.
But it's still a defunct product in a way.
Yeah, it still is. I mean, you can't chalk this up to being like a mini game or an indie game or something like that. I mean, it's
in a certain sense, it's like porting it once again to make a comparison with the medium of movies. It's kind of like waiting for this somehow anticipated blockbuster to be released on Blu-ray, and you insert the disc into your Blu-ray player, and instead of getting HD Blu-ray quality, you basically get for those of you who frequent a certain website where you can get stuff for free, you'll understand this. You get a TS version.
Right.
That was basically, it looks like it was filmed by someone with a camcorder inside the theater. And it's like, hey, here's your Blu-ray version, but I paid $20 for this. Well, sucks to be you. You should have seen this in a theater.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. You should have played this on the Xbox or the PS3.
Yeah, it's the example I can think of is a lot of people didn't like the Ghostbusters Blu-ray release because they said it was extremely grainy, and they said that the quality wasn't much better than a DVD version of it. Mm-hmm. Which again, you pay money and you expect the product to keep up with the technology that you bought the product for and that it was intended for, and it falls flat.
And the problem with these hack ports is that it really kind of like, and especially in the case of something like the Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3, it really diminishes the effect of the original.
Right.
And the same thing happened with me with Resident Evil 4, because I was, at the time when I was much younger, I was really into that game, and I was kind of dying to get my hands on a Wii of all things, because the best version of Resident Evil 4 was actually released on the Wii, because it had all the GameCube content, I believe some extras. Yeah, some extra content as well.
It might have had the content from the PlayStation 2 version too, because the PlayStation 2 version, I believe, was supposed to have some extra content.
Yeah. So in a certain sense, it was like a definitive version several years before there even were definitive versions of video games. But anyway, so I was dying to get my hands on Resident Evil 4, and then I decided to I'm just gonna obtain a PC version of that game, and I was so disappointed because the game was nearly unplayable. Mm-hmm. So, and eventually, when I did get to play the Wii version, I was content with the game. I enjoyed it for what it was, but still, there was that initial bad taste in my mouth from,
right.
Once again, making the gay fucking references, but still.
To make the dick swallowing references.
Yeah, to make even more gay innuendos, but yeah, it did kind of like spoil the initial experience for me. So yeah, and the same thing I would imagine can happen to people who are only now discovering a classic like Silent Hill 2 because they bought the HD release because it's like, well, I don't have a PS2, so I might as well get this game for the PS3. And the game is glitchy, the voice acting is abysmal, and
what I would say is we're living in an interesting time right now where we had a lot of kicking and screaming as far as like taking a game from like PlayStation 2 and making you rebuy it for the PlayStation 3 because they don't want backwards compatibility, which I think is just money grabbing, to be honest. I mean, to put a PlayStation 2 disc inside your PlayStation 3, be able to play it is something that I think is sorely missing these days. However, if they're going to go this extra mile to resell you, this is the newest generation of this exact same philosophy, but I think it's getting better.
Right.
They're making you for like Last of Us and stuff. They created a updated version of that game for the PlayStation 4, and they say they're going to re-release the Uncharted games for the PlayStation 4.
Christ, no fucking crutches.
Hey, I like the games. I really like them though. But if they're not gonna, again, the original games were in HD technically, and if they can't just upscale it because people are gonna be like, "What the fuck is this shit?" You didn't do anything.
Right.
So they almost have to retexture. They almost actually have to put the extra effort into ports. So I think we're living in an interesting time where we're gonna see classic games begin to get more content. They might get rebuilt, they might just get a new coat of paint, but there will be a visual difference. There will be some interest. However, if the games are going to start making minor improvements, like again, Wind Waker adding dungeons that were scripted and never fully gone through with.
Uh-huh.
Adding those back to the games, that would be interesting. Same thing with Metro 2033, where they rebuilt apparently the entire fucking game from the ground up. Additionally, interesting. But just a coat of paint, it's not going to suffice anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean just add some little bonuses. Well, obviously, if the initial version of the game has a flaw, like in the case of The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time with the Water Temple, or in the case of Deus Ex: Human Revolution with the boss battles, then yeah, it's kind of your obligation to first and foremost fix that flaw.
Fix the gameplay problems.
Yeah,
yes.
but also you gotta take into consideration that some people are rebuying the same game for the umpteenth time, so just throw us a little bonus here and there. And by bonus, I mean maybe some bonus content, not gimmicky features like the messages in a bottle.
Right, you need to make this worth our while.
Yeah, you kind of have to cater to both newcomers who will only discover the game for the first time. So you do include all the bonuses from the previous versions, like DLC, extra costumes, extra modes of transportation, etc., etc. But you also kind of have to appease the long-term fans who might have purchased the initial game, and also all of those subsequent DLC packs. So just give people something new, and they will be appeased. Because you're preserving a game, you're saving it for a new generation. Because we've been, for the majority of this discussion, we've been talking about ports of relatively recent games. But
right, that's the biggest thing too, is they're very, very recent games.
Yeah, but there have been some successful ports of all the classics, like DuckTales, obviously, and more importantly, Monkey Island.
Right.
The HD version of Monkey Island, where they revamped the not the textures, what do you call it, the sprites. From basically they recreated they created a new visual style for the game, but interestingly enough, I believe they also kept the original version, the original 8-bit or 16-bit or whatever it was.
And the two versions are hot swappable, meaning if no matter where you are in the game, you can switch back to the classic version, or vice versa.
Which is another nice feature that I wish more people would. I wish that more companies would embrace, because otherwise, sometimes, and I'm kind of trying to think of examples here, but it kind of escapes my mind, but sometimes you do have that diva-ish George Lucas type where it's like, no, the previous version was terrible, like with like the Silent Hill HD editions, like the new voices, I'm going to include the new voices.
Right.
So.
Yeah. On the other hand, though, again, they've taken some classic games like Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, and fucked that up. Again, for the most part, the gameplay style doesn't really translate that well into this day and age. It's kind of an outdated beat 'em up style, but again, it really robbed it of a lot of its charm.
Right.
So again, Jesus Christ, we're falling into the exact same pitfall as last time, where we want to see improvements, though, but the improvements could be a total catch-22.
Well, that's the thing is, I guess at the end of all of this, the only thing we can say is that people really need to exercise caution, and I do like the fact that people, like in the case of the horrendous PC port of Final Fantasy XIII, people on various message boards and communities like Steam and whatnot, they are basically busting the developers' balls for not doing their job properly. And in certain cases, they have no, some talented people like hackers and modders, they improve the game for everyone else, which is, and they release the patches for free. Yes, the fan patches.
Yes.
So in that sense, they're freaking saints, because they take a turd and they turn it into something that actually works. Oh, so
I love that analogy. You take a turd and you turn it into a diamond or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call Final Fantasy XIII a freaking diamond.
I was gonna say you take a bunch of coal, and over the next several, I don't know, dozens of new generations, maybe they'll finally turn Final Fantasy XIII into something playable.
Well, yeah, and even then, it's not like a diamond; it's some cheap plastic jewelry at the end.
Yeah, it's not a diamond; it's a rhinestone.
Oh boy. So, any kind of word of advice we can give people, like exercise caution, or?
Well, for the most part, I think if you just keep your ear to what other gamers are saying and not the gaming press again, you should be able to tell what you're getting yourself into. I mean, even I was kind of thinking, maybe I should give Final Fantasy XIII another chance. Maybe I should get this $15, $16 version on Steam. And then you look at the comment section and it's like, fuck no, don't want none of that shit. I mean, there's a fan patch for this game. If you like the game, if you want to play it for the first time even, it's an inexpensive way to get into it. There's a fan patch that will give you the graphic options so you can be better utilized on your PC. However, out of the fucking box, it's utterly incompetent.
Which is just impermissible.
Right, and speaking of gaming journalism being incompetent, it's the fact that if you listen to other gamers and what the communities have to say, you get way more fucking information than listening to a journalist or even like a trailer for the re-release or any of the hype that's buzzing around it.
Right.
And even you got YouTube. I mean, look at other fucking videos. Turn this shit off. I don't know what the hell you're doing watching this shit. But look up other like gameplay videos and get a sense of what you're going to be in for. I mean, you shouldn't, in this age with the internet and whatnot and the globalization and the communities out there, there should be no way where you shouldn't be completely uninformed.
Right. Scour multiple sources and make an intelligent, well-informed purchase.
Yes.
Because like I said, in this age of almost boundless information, there's really no excuse just to go blindly into anything.
Right. If you're going to be choking down SquareEnix's dick, then at least you'll be going in there well informed.
Yes, it's and you know what? After all the jokes and whatnot, hey, you know what, folks? As long as it's consensual, we don't care what you do in the privacy of your bedroom.
Yeah, but again, I still think that this Final Fantasy XIII thing, they're setting up the sequels. They're gonna probably port over Final Fantasy XIII 2, and they have a new game coming out that they probably want to capitalize on the PC. What's it called again? Final Fantasy XIII 3: Lightning Comes Again. Ooh.
Bring the entire discussion full circle.
After all of the having lightning rammed down our throats, innuendos, we better end here.
Yeah. But you know what? If you're into that and it's consensual, by all means, do whatever you want.
If you're willing to let Square Enix just rape you in the mouth, then that's totally your prerogative. It's just that we think Square Enix should be paying you to do it.